Hello and welcome to another episode of In Off the VAR. I'm Carl. I'm joined by podcast regular Luke. How you doing, Luke? You all right?
Good evening. I'm very well, thank you for asking.
Good stuff. And becoming very much a regular on the pod is Jimmy the Ref. How you doing, Jimmy? You all right?
Great, gentlemen. Great to see you.
Good.
Nice to see you, Jimmy.
You too, Jimmy. You too, as always.
Carl.
So, Jimmy, we'll get straight into it. We've 3 matches to cover today. So we'll get straight into the Spurs game and we'll do a few minutes on that and see what your opinion is and see how we get on. So I was watching the game now. I've started taking notes on the ref, Jimmy, so that we can have these chats. And I thought he had a very quiet opening 20 minutes up until the point where Aurier decided he'd try and fake an injury to get Click booked. I thought up to that point, he didn't have an awful lot to do, did he?
No, he certainly didn't, but that was a pivotal part of the game. The referee should have taken action. And that when a player tried to circumvent the laws of the game to suit himself, referee should take, action, and it should be stopped. Actually, I know I go on a bit about Jack Grealish and Villa, but not the last game, the one prior to that, he was like a petulant little child who, as he started pounding the grass when he didn't get a free kick, because I think the referee had got totally cheesed off with him. Now, no doubt about it, he's a talented player, but he brings fouls on. And referees have to be very conscious of that. You can't get away with that all the time. You can't keep doing that. But his first game, the referee for 20 minutes, he was sound with that. But he kind of got a bit too complacent during the course of the first half hour, and that this is easy and that I'm not going to have any hassle. Two teams want to play football, and that got into his head, and he wasn't very proactive when it came to challenges and fouls. He didn't deal with issues that he should have dealt with on the pitch, and but he was very fortunate and he was very lucky to get away with what he did on the day. But overall, for me, he certainly didn't have the whole game, to be honest with you. He handled it very well. There was a couple of little niggly things in it that he probably should have dealt with. But overall, I thought he did very well.
Yeah, I like I said, he had an opening 20 minutes that he didn't have much to do, and he was kind of, I think when he did have something to do, it kind of, I don't know, he didn't really step up and do anything about it, did he? Like there was the Click on Aurier thing where Aurier tried to basically get Clicky booked and potentially something else by holding his face, and maybe he should have taken action there and kind of stamped his bit of authority after the 20 minutes or so.
He probably should have action, but if you remember the game up to that point, it was just flowing. There was nothing issue. There was no major issue. Two teams that wanted to play football. And that was in his mindset that, he's not going to make any issues that's going to create any thing in the game. Book a player too early. Now, that's a lame excuse. If a foul is committed, you book a player, there's 30 seconds into the game and that. But sometimes, because the nature of the game and the ways it's going, you look at it, well, it's counterproductive if I do book a player for, simulation or something like that. Just let's get on with it. And there was no one hurt. Let's get on with the game. And he adopted that attitude. And it came back to bite him in the bum a little bit during the rest of the game. But by and large, I thought he did pretty well. I thought, he kept a tight rein on the game, and he wasn't the main feature in the game. The two teams were, and that's for me sign of good referee. He took a step back from a lot of issues.
I like Michael Oliver. He's probably one of the better referees that we've gotten quite a bit this year.
He is. I like Kevin Flynn and Michael Oliver are two of my favourite referees. Yeah. I think they're top class. Martin Atkinson, another referee that I would try for. Michael Oliver is one of those that you don't get under his skin. He lets the game flow to the best of his ability on that. And he looks at issues and, he'll say, well, what's the point of giving a card? It's counterproductive. It's going to cause a little bit of hassle, It's up the nose of Spurs, and the reaction mightn't be what I'd want. So I thought he handled it very well. I think he's a very, very good referee, Michael Oliver. Probably one of the best in Europe, not only in the Premiership.
I know we bang on about VAR quite a bit on the show, Jimmy. But that Spurs goal should have stood, really. Let's be like, I know from a Leeds perspective, no, we're glad it didn't. But
whose team are you? What are you, Carl?
But you know what I mean? Like everyone has said it. Like it's like the hair on his knee. You know what I mean? It's like, come on, that's splitting. That's literally splitting hairs.
If you come from Birkenhead, you're called a plastic scouser in Liverpool. So he's a plastic.
Plastic Yorkshireman, is it?
Yeah, the goal should have stood, and I would certainly agree with that. I thought it was an absolute disgrace. It should have stood, but look at the margins when it comes to the offside and the VAR. Look what happened to Bamford.
We'll get on to that. Don't worry about that.
Bamford has been punished more severely than any striker in the Premiership, and if he had been allowed some of the goals, he probably would have the golden boot by now. So, it's swings and roundabouts, in my opinion.
Yeah, Luke, what do you think? How do you think Michael Oliver did? Do you think he did all right, and was he fair in the way he did it?
It's an absolutely great question, gents. I don't fucking remember the game, I don't. To be fair, I remember the game. I met up with a few of the lads actually and watched it outside in Edinburgh. Remember a couple of the goals, but in terms of the refereeing performance, don't have a fucking clue, to be honest with you. I cannot remember anything.
That's something up for me, Karen, because if there was issues, I'm sure Luke would have in the back of his mind.
But that's true too. If a referee kind of bullies a game,
Yeah, he did what he was there to do, referee the game, and on both sides he let a lot go on both sides in that, and he's the type of referee that he just does the job that he's there to do, and he's not a showman. He's not there for the camera's sake or anything like that. He's there to do the job he's paid to do. And Luke is 100% right. He didn't see the referee, didn't take much notice of him.
I was too busy going to the bar, to be honest, and getting mixed up. But as you rightly say, though, Jimmy, if there was any sort of outstanding decisions, any penalty claims and things that I felt went against us, probably if we'd have lost the game, I might have remembered a few more. Because we played well, probably one of the most complete performances of the season, and absolutely owned Spurs from sort of the 20th minute. Earlier than that, probably about the 15th minute onwards. Yeah. I think it just sort of relaxes you, and you just sort of sit back, don't you, after the game? You don't have any sort of gripes or.
That's a very valid point, Luke. The referee can actually put you, a support in a relaxing mood because. You watch him and you watch the decisions he makes, especially in the first 10, 15 minutes. And yourself, you get that belief into yourself and your mindset that this guy is going to do no favours for anyone. He's going to do the job. And that's the way Michael Oliver does it. Or Kevin Fringe.
But all in all, I agree with you both. I think he is probably one of the better refs in the league, from what I can remember. I don't think there was anything from memory. I mean, you're probably going to tell me something in a minute that I'll have missed. But no, go on anyway.
No, yeah, I again just to reiterate, he is probably one of the better ones. Don't remember you getting the beers in, to be honest. Quite what?
We're on the eve of the last game of the season, so let's just.
Yeah, exactly. And come here, Jimmy. What would you rate Michael Oliver out of 10 now in that game?
If you give a referee 10 out of 10, it'd be unbelievable. I'd have given him 9.2. I think he deserved it for his ability. His physical fitness, is above question. His interpretation of the laws of the game is just absolutely spot on. And his positioning, which I look out for an awful lot, the position of a referee. Now, it's very hard to judge it on television, but you get a fair idea. And I thought his positioning, told me that every decision he made, he was there, he was on top of it, and he made the correct decision. He overlooked quite a few things, because it was in the best interest of the game to let the game flow on that. And by doing that, he had a very good game. So I give him 9.2.
All right, that's brilliant. Sounds so. Right, that's enough of Spurs, because that was ages ago and Luke can't remember diddly squat. So what we'll do is we'll move on to Burnley, Luke, there.
Yeah,
if you want to take
him. Because that was only a few days after. I still can't remember. I'm only kidding. I've got a few more memories from the Burnley game, and the reason was because I was sober. So yeah, I mean, we had Graham Scott refereed this, if I remember rightly, and from what I remember the Burnley lads being quite sort of old school is probably the best terminology in terms of defensive gladiators that are literally just going to leave your foot in and let them know you're there. And there was a few tasty challenges in that game, and I've just had a look actually at the stats, and I'm very surprised that each team only received one yellow card each during that game. And I think the first question was Bamford fouled in the build up to Klitsch's goal, which Klitsch scored. Bamford had fouled, I think it was Ben Mee or Tarkowski in the centre circle. Yeah. And we went through and scored. So the ref played advantage, but why didn't he come back for a booking? Do you remember the incident, Jimmy?
I do remember the incident, yeah. Graham Scott wouldn't be one of the best known referees in the Premier League, just a newcomer to the league. And again, there was a couple of issues in the game that I thought he was very, very poor in. But by and large, he didn't do really anything wrong. But a referee can't. The only time that it's very, very rare that it happens in a game of football is where there's a red card incident that they allow play continue and then come back and give a red card. It can be done. Yeah. And that if there's an opportunity of a goal scored chance, the referee should allow play and then come back and give a red card. But it's very, very rare that is done. But I find a good refereeing if there's an advantage to a team, where there's a foul being committed, and let the play go on. And the next time there's a breakdown in the play, to issue the card for the defender player. And I think that is actually good refereeing. It's very easy if the advantage, normally they say, and it's not written in stone, this Luke, that you allow 6 seconds for advantage. You allow a couple of seconds in that, but there's no real time set as to how long you play. But I think it's very good refereeing if you allow play and you bring it back if there's no advantage. I'd give it anything up to 10, 15 seconds. Yeah. I would allow that.
Do you think that particular challenge was worthy because of where it was on the pitch? Probably diluted it somewhat, but I still think that he's gone in there to break the play up and as a bit of a professional foul.
Yeah, but it was, you're 100% correct. It was where it was on the field. That's a thing that the referee looks at, and the assistant referees, it's where the foul took place. How much of a goal scoring opportunity would there been if, play had continued, and that where players were and all that type of thing. Yeah. So, in that instance, he was fairly spot on. The player could then bring back and caution the player. So he was right in that situation. But I thought, and you made a point earlier on, Luke, with regards to the old style defensive play. And certainly both teams were guilty, not just Burnley, both teams were guilty of that. Of course, there will be a bit of history between the two clubs, kind of a local derby. And there was that little bit of history between them. And Graham Scott, I think, probably was aware of that, and that probably got into his head before the game. And he had a chat with the assistants. We'll keep it down as much as we can, but we also have to be very conscious of, to let the game flow and not to be stop-start sort of thing. Oh, yeah. But I thought he had a good game, Graham Scott, but he let a few things go that he should have dealt with. I thought the Alioski incident, was a farce ago.
Yeah. So I was going to come on to that, Jimmy. So they're coming together between Alioski and Dwight McNeil. Who was in the wrong there, first of all?
McNeil was in the wrong. He was in the wrong. And that's where Graham Scott kind of fell down a bit. And that's part of the reason I think why he went over and spoke to the managers, to try and cover himself on that. Because McNeil was at Alioski all through the game. He was not getting any change out of Alioski, and he was middling at him. And in the end, Alioski had enough. Now, the gestures that he made were something that you see children do every day of the week. I'm not a racist. I don't believe in racism. I just can't stand it. And I don't believe that Alioski meant anything other than, what he did.
I think it's interesting you say that, Jimmy, because we've not heard absolutely anything about it since. Now at the time, the newspapers were absolutely reveling in it. They were loving it. The online papers, they were another Leeds player has been, an allegation of racism, blah blah blah. But from what it seems, I mean, I've not seen any reports or anything. And I would imagine we would have heard something a little more from the FA by now, at least, just to say it's under investigation or whatever.
Luke, can you recall what the commentator said about it?
I can't remember, Jimmy. Funnily enough.
Well, I can because I laughed because I've seen it with children. I've seen it with kids playing football, and he remarked to his co-commentator, it was like something you see in the schoolyard with children, and that's what it was to me. I cannot stand racism in any shape or form. Absolutely, it's so ugly. But I looked at that as just an absolute childish.
And I think everybody did. I think every single person did until somebody thought, hang on a minute, that might be racist. And then it just developed and snowballed. But prior to the silly, funny face pulling of that Alioski, there was in a moment where Dwight McNeil was stood over Alioski. And whether or not he's been caught on camera, but there was also allegations of spitting as well. But I don't believe he was. I think he was saying something to him, and maybe a bit of fluids come out of his mouth. However, you can't stand over somebody and effectively intimidate them and bully them when they're on the floor. If he was in a bad way, how bad would he feel that he'd stood over him and effectively called him a cheater or a diver or whatever he's called him?
Well, that's classified as unsporting behaviour when you do that. And if you put your hand on a player, it's actually a red card against the players on the ground. And we've seen referees allow players being lifted up on the ground when they're injured and that. And that is technically a red card. And it shouldn't get out. The referee, that's where I say Graham Scott let himself down a little bit. In that incident, he should have gone in, shoved a card on the McNeil's nose straight away and said, out, move out. And that. But he actually made the issue a little bit worse by going over to the managers and then bringing the two captains together. Now, I don't know what he said to the captains, but he shouldn't have done that. He's given a card to McNeil. Around to play. And if he had done that, I don't think anything, or no one would have mentioned anything about racism or anything like that. But the referee made it an issue because he was beginning to lose control of the game at that stage.
Gillies just said it's strange that there's been nothing but radio silence since, almost as if that holds no water. So I completely agree. It's a non-starter. I think the papers just sort of reeled in it because of the previous with Pico and whatever else and everything else that's gone on. They've sort of tried using that as a bit of a newspaper seller or clickbait or whatever you want to call it. So all in all then, Jimmy, based on what you saw and the performance and other bits and pieces, I suppose, as a professional, how would you be rating Graham Scott out of 10 on his performance?
I'd have given him 7.5 for his performance. I thought he didn't do an awful lot wrong, but his manhandling of the game I thought was poor. And that's what illegal manhandling. If you don't take control of the game in the first instance, as soon as you blow that whistle, the players into your ear, the players dictate to you what's going on. You lose the game. You lose confidence in yourself. your assistants, because they can hear everything that's been said to you and that.
Yeah.
And if you're not taking charge of the game, you're there to do a job. And you tell the players, I've made my decision, move on.
Yeah.
Assistant referees have a thing. If a decision goes against them, if the referee flags them down, say no, gives it the opposite way that they have flagged, there's a saying in assistant referees is park it and move on. And the referee didn't do that with some of the decisions. And the biggest part, when he brought the managers together, he brought the two captains and had a discussion with them. What was he talking to them about? It's not his job to tell the captains about racism or anything like that if there was a complaint made. His job is to take note of it and to report it after the game. And he doesn't have the right to discuss it with players on the pitch. He obviously didn't hear anything, or he didn't see, maintained he didn't see anything. He brought an awful lot on himself on the day. So there was other decisions he got right. Overall, he didn't have a thank you, but because of those incidents, I just give him 7.5.
Perfect. Sorry, we've just had one quick. Sorry, Carl, just to interrupt. We've just had one quick question before we sort of move on. Debs has just asked, and I know we always touch on it on VAR on this show, on this segment on in off the VAR. But do you think the offside law needs simplifying to help? Not help necessarily just VAR, but help the people running the VAR. Does it just need to be feet? Does it need to be? Does it have to be clear and obvious? So rather than these little thin lines, if they're touching, I know they're doing Holland. If the lines are touching, they're a certain width. If they're touching, then the benefit of the doubt is still given to the to the attacking team. How would you go about that? If you, I suppose, what would you do? Is probably the better question.
Well, look, I just can't stand. I think it has destroyed the game of football, and it's taken away the argument of when you're out having a jar with your mates and that was he offside or was it a penalty, and it has taken away that debate in the bar. For a lot of footballers, genuine footballers. The offside law, I do know that they aren't looking at it. UEFA is looking at it in FIFA. There will be changes coming in the next couple of months. Now, I'm not sure what. We haven't been notified as to what the changes are yet, other than we've been told that there are changes coming. They are going to tweak it a little bit. Now, there's, a belief that the attacker or the striker or the forward gets the benefit of the doubt. That's absolutely totally rubbish. That was never. There's nothing in the laws of the game that should happen, that a defender or attacker should get the benefit of the doubt. If they're offside, they're offside. And I have a feeling that they are going to go back to the basics when it comes to offside. This is just my own belief. And while talking to people within the FAI, they are going to go back to the basics of offside, and it'll be very clear and obvious.
So are they going to use the whole daylight thing again, Jimmy, are they?
More than likely, it's something similar to that.
Right, okay.
It's probably the best way to do it, and it will solve an enormous amount of issues with the offside.
But it just means, I think, then, it'd mean that fans could celebrate because they know it's daylight rather than, he's wearing a size 10 this week and that instead of wearing a 9, he's wore a 10. And
I can't understand it. You look at these lines and it's an elbow in many cases that they put the line down from. I mean, the laws of the game states clearly, your hand, your arm is the only part of your body that cannot be ruled. It can be in an offside position, but can it be ruled offside? Because you cannot score with your hand or your arm. And that. So, I mean, that's very obvious. And why they do that is beyond me. And I remember, I'm not sure, it was one particular pundit turned around and says, forget about having referees looking at VAR. He says, you want IT technicians looking at it rather than VAR. They probably would get it right. The referees. So, but they are going to go back, I think, to the base. And you're right, Carl, more than likely daylight.
No.
Perfect.
We have an IT technician, Jimmy. You've met him a few times, Gilly. I don't even think Gilly could work. I don't even think Gilly could work it out. To be fair with you, man, and he's quite the whiz at the old IT,
Yeah.
Gilly's not here for
Allegedly,
yeah. Thanks for that, Jimmy. We get on to the Saints game. It was Peter Banks ref in this one. we've got a few talking points that we'd like to go over, but sure, we'll let you give us an assessment of him just to start off with, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, Peter Banks, again, not a couple of seasons on the Premiership scene, and that makes himself a very, very good referee, to be quite honest with you. He's not a referee that likes to be caught up in issues on the pitch where the cameras are focused on him and, did he make that decision right? And that he'll make a decision, he'll stand over it, he'll get on with the game, he takes a step back. And I like him for that. I have great time for it. I think he is going to be a top referee. There was a couple of issues in the game that, you could argue was Bamford's first goal was the offside when he received the ball. It was doubtful. I'm sure VAR. You see, a lot of people may not understand this. VAR can tell the referee they're going to look at it, but the referee can tell them to go stuff yourself. I'm not interested. I don't have to. It's not, VAR is only there to guide the referee, but he doesn't have to take. A lot of people think VAR is running the game. It's the referee on it. What happens inside the 4 lines is down to the referee. If he says, no, I'm not interested, I'm quite happy, my assistant has made this decision, he didn't put a flag up, I'm quite happy, I'm not looking at it. VAR has no authority to overrule him, and they can't overrule him. All they're there is to advise him on that. Now, whether they did say something or not, I don't know. But I thought overall, he handled it well. I think it was a Ward Prowse with an elbow.
Yeah.
It wasn't. Let's be honest. It wasn't deliberate. I don't think it was deliberate because.
See, my issue with that, Jimmy, is that the commentators are like, "Oh, he was, protecting the ball," and you kind of shuffle yourself about to kind of, use your upper strength and whatnot like that. But he didn't have the ball to protect it. It was another midfielder that had the ball. It was obstruction. It was my issue with it. And he swung the elbow, and you're kind of like, well, if he's not got the ball and he swung his elbow, surely that's dangerous play.
I don't think he's caught him enough to from my perspective. I don't think that was warranted a red card or dangerous or foul play. I think it was a free kick to Leeds. I think it was obstruction.
It was obstruction and a free kick, but it wasn't a red card.
No, I wouldn't say a red, but
you have to look when there's a couple of players around a ball and that. There's a lot of going on, a lot of shuffling and pulling and dragging, and referees tend to, whoever goes down first in this instance, going to get a bloody free kick. But in this instance, I don't think there was much contact really. There was no damage done, and players go down very easily. I mean, I've seen a thing on social media very recently where the caption was children shouldn't be allowed to play football. It's very dangerous. This was a professional game of football where one player can be behind another player and just touched him on his ear, and he went down and he started rolling the holes in his head, and that is if he was, he had it. I mean, it's just unbelievable. And referees have to be, and they are going to be very conscious of it now. I'm going to be told that this has to stop. You have to put a stop to this carrying on, the simulation. And the sooner a referee has the courage to do this. Now, we've seen it going back to the Aston Villa game, the second last game, where the referee waved play on. We've seen the reactions of Grealish. Ronaldo done it when he was at Manchester United on a regular basis, and referees got totally cheesed off the allowed play continue. It has to stop. Norman Hunter, we all remember him. I do, with great fondness on that. And he certainly wouldn't go down. I remember having a conversation with Johnny Giles some years back here in Castlebar, and we were talking about the footballers of today and yesteryears. And he said, look, he says, could you imagine, he says, Ronaldo or Messi, he says, going down, he says, from a tackle from Norman Hunter. He wouldn't be running around. He says, he wouldn't be able. So, you see them going out, you just look at them, breathe into their ear, and they go rolling around. But go back and, when there was reading in playing football, these guys wouldn't last 5 minutes. Especially with the great Leeds team of the 70s and late 60s.
Yeah. They were a different class altogether. Like,
oh, they were a different class. I mean, you lads can only, read about them. I have great memories of them. Or Madeley, Reaney, Charlton. They were men.
Yeah.
With that in mind, well, it just that seems appropriate to chuck my 2 pence in now, actually, because I know you mentioned about people staying on the feet and stuff. I hope you don't mind me just jumping on, Carl. There was an incident in the game where Patrick Bamford was through on goal and the keepers clipped him and he stayed on his feet. And he's looked at the referee. The referee's given a corner because the keeper made contact with the ball after he'd made contact with or the defender's clear or whatever. He's gone out for a corner. Patrick Bamford then turned around and said, "So I have to go down for it to be a penalty." What's the rule in there? And should VAR be involved?
Yeah. There's no rule in a situation like that. The referee, there was contact, but was there enough contact to bring him down? No, there certainly wasn't. But Bamford still had an opportunity. Bamford, if you can recall that situation where Bamford actually kind of pulled back a little bit, and then he allowed the ball go for a corner kick. So the referee had given the advantage, and they also had the advantage.
Do you think that was a fair advantage?
It was a fair advantage because the ball had gone out for a corner kick. He was still allowing a free kick. It certainly wasn't a penalty. I wouldn't have given a penalty in a situation like that.
Really?
No, I wouldn't. No.
Do you think VAR should have been involved, Jimmy? Because I thought, looking back at it, first look, I didn't think it was a penalty because obviously he didn't go down. But looking back at it, I think there was enough contact there for Patrick Bamford to go down and win a penalty. If he goes down there, he wins a penalty for me.
Well, I think he does, yeah.
Look, again, it's very easy for referees to get penalties in a situation like that. But you have to look at the contact, how much contact was made. For me, there wasn't enough contact to bring Bamford down. And I admire Bamford as a professional, not to go down and look for an easy penalty. I think, well done to him on that. And then when the ball went over corner kick, then he thought, well, maybe I'll chance it with the referee. But I thought Peter Banks, he did very well in that situation. He gave advantage. Now, there's only 2 frees you can give inside the penalty area. A direct, which is a penalty, or an indirect free kick. The corner kick is just equal to an indirect free kick in a situation like that. So he allowed the corner to be taken. But I thought Peter Banks did very well. There's a couple of issues in the game, but by and large, he handled very well. He wasn't the centre of attraction. He got through it without any big major issues in it. And the most important thing, lads, we won the damn thing.
That's true, yeah.
I think that's probably why we're looking on it maybe a little bit leniently, because if we'd have lost that game or drawn that game or lost by a goal or whatever, but if I'd have felt fucking real. Sorry to swear, Jimmy. I don't usually swear in front of my elders.
But look, we never use that in Irish.
I'd have felt really hard done to. Is probably what I'm trying to get at. If we'd have struggled through that game or lost by a goal or drawn or whatever. If we hadn't got the 3 points, I think there'd have been a lot more focus on that incident.
Yeah, there most certainly would have been. But again, from a referee's perspective, I thought that, there wasn't enough contact to bring a player down.
You're the professional, Jimmy. I'm not here to question you.
That's what the referee has to look at. And the linesman was in a perfect position as well. And I'm certain sure that he spoke to the referee. He said to the referee, no. Because there would be in contact in situations like that. Now, I go back to the first goal, Bamford's goal, and that was the offside, and that I'm sure VAR did. I'm certain sure that they did question it and that. And I think I lay odds that the referee turned around and says, "No, I'm not interested. My assistant was in a good position, no offside, ball stand, and there was no issue." So VAR is there to advise, not to dictate. And the problem with VAR and referees, some VARs take a cop-out, or some referees take a cop-out and they go to VAR too willingly and too easy. Where the likes of Peter Banks, the first time I seen him carrying on in a responsible manner, Kevin Friend, Mariner, they don't go around to VAR, or they don't always take the VAR's advice. The referee can tell VAR, I'm happy with the decision I made. it stands.
Perfect.
VAR cannot overrule them.
That's a fair point. That is a very fair point, Jimmy. And I'm not here to question you. You're the one with the experience. I think it's when you. Do you know? I think where the waters have been muddied is because there's so much inconsistency, not just with refereeing, but with VAR as well. And I think that's why when you're watching a game through the midweek, and whether it's the Chelsea or the Scum or whoever, and you see a soft decision or a soft penalty given, and then you see Bamford being really honest and staying on his feet when there's probably more contact in that than somebody who's won a penalty earlier on in the week. And I think that's where there's probably some murkiness, and there needs to be some some final. There just needs to be some guidance on if it's anything, and VAR need to have some consistency for me.
Inconsistency is the word that you use, though, and that's 100% right. And that's one of the things that we say to referees. It looks bad if one referee does a match, we'll say at 11 o'clock on a Sunday morning, and referee does a match at 2 o'clock, and there's two different interpretations of the laws of the game.
Absolutely.
It looks absolutely terrible. Everyone should be singing from the same hymn sheet. Every referee should adapt the same laws, interpret the same laws, and apply the same laws to the game. There should be no in between. And the common sense, the 17 laws in the game of football, we always say there are 18. The 18th one is common sense. And referees, that's where you can have a little bit of inconsistency where people will understand by applying a little bit of common sense from time to time in situations like that. But I do agree with you. Going down, looking for penalties and things like that has to be looked at and has to be dealt with. And VAR, I think, if we're going to have VAR should be more proactive when it comes to decisions like that. And look at the amount of contact and say no, and have the courage to say no. Yellow card for the person that went down, and that's the way it should be dealt with.
Yeah. So on the flip, go on, Carl.
No, carry on, Luke. Sorry.
So on the flip reverse of that, you've got Kyle Walker-Peters who goes down looking for a penalty at the other end, who dives pretty much. Kyle Walker-Peters, and he doesn't get booked for it. Why?
That's his consistency. The referee, if the player goes down, yes, he should get cautioned for it. It is a yellow card offence when a referee goes down. There's no question about it. That's
it's definitely Jimmy's fault. I know well.
Jimmy's fault. Matching them together.
Yeah.
Good man, Jimmy.
It should be dealt with by a yellow card. But again, sometimes referees look at it, just get on with it. And I agree.
Leniency. Yeah. Sometimes I suppose the game needs to flow, doesn't it? And if you start punishing every single foul and there's going to be no flow to the game. It's going to be absolutely shite to watch. Yeah, if the game is going well, for players and referees and that, to book someone for something like that, it's very easy. Well, player continue. Run along with the offending player. Just have a word in his ears. Look, lad, I know what you've done. The next time you do it, you definitely get one of your card. I tell you what doesn't make it look great, Jimmy, is the fact that they didn't get a single yellow card all game, even with the Ward-Prowse incident, even with the dive, and we still picked up 3. And albeit, we probably deserved Harrison, and I forget the other 2 off the top of my head. But it just doesn't look great. It goes back to that talking about consistency, doesn't it? If you're going to punish somebody for something, you've got to be equally punished, I suppose. So
But Peter Banks, he allowed the game to flow. Now he could have, I looked at a couple of incidents in that game, and he could have been more proactive than cards to Leeds players. There's a couple of other incidents where he could have dished out cards, but the 3 cards that was issued to Leeds players were warranted in that, and he probably, I could have maybe given for Dive, and I could have given a card for this, to the Southampton players. It's kind of balanced out. Leeds have won the game.
That's it. We don't give a shit. We won.
Yeah, that's the other side, isn't it? But I think, Jimmy, just with that Walker-Peters thing, I think it's just in a game where you've got Bamford saying, so I have to go down to get a penalty. and you've got Walker Peters just going down to try and win a penalty. You kind of have to set a precedent with, in my opinion, as a fan and someone watching the game, I'd like, even if it was a Leeds player that went down like that, I'd like to see them honestly get a booking, like, because you're not going to have other players doing it then. So it's like,
in the overall context of the game, you have to look at the referee's view and off it, and that, and by issuing cards for stupid, silly things can create a lot of issues. With both teams on that. The game was going Leeds' way, and he probably thought, well, why make an issue of something that may come back to haunt me if it happens down the other end.
Do clubs or players? I mean, when I used to play, we used to get fined by the club if we got a yellow card or a red card or whatever. Do clubs and players get fines?
Yeah. Oh, yes, they do. Yeah. I know. Like in the local, what's it called, the junior league, it's €15. The equivalent, say, about 12 quid per yellow card. No, we've got two underage national leagues, and under 15 and under 13, where they're what they call progressive national leagues, and the kids in those leagues, for a fine, I think it's up €20 for a yellow card.
What about professional then? How much would the club get fined?
Probably it could be anything to €100 for the electricity league. In the Premier League in England, it could be anything up to 200 quid.
Per card. I tell you what, I'm glad I didn't get that many yellows and reds in my day.
You look like a bit of a bruiser, you do, man. How did you not get any yellows and reds? Like,
I got one or two.
I wasn't that good at the football, so I thought I'd take a breath.
Jimmy, I never saw you play football, but I definitely know you're probably a better referee than you were a footballer. Like,
I think that either. I mean, your dad got his anniversary was just gone. I was talking to a chap the other day about him, and he says, "You have fond memories of him." And I says, "Yeah." I says, "I have great memories of him." And we were in Anfield together in '92. Was it when the Rest won the All First Division?
Yeah.
And we missed the train from Dublin to Castlebar on the Monday, the afternoon train. We got the late train down. Needless to say, we were caught in a pub. We weren't allowed out.
That's a good excuse, that, Jimmy. I've not used that one before.
Yeah.
Missed the train.
That is a fact. We were not allowed out. No, that's quite true. We got a lift from the airport from a football club who were over at some out in Liverpool, and they brought us into their local pub in the heart of Dublin City, and they told us that they'd bring us to the station, to use the course to bring us to the station, but they didn't. We got drink. Now they brought us later on that evening. We were lucky.
Already missed the train.
We missed the afternoon train. It was a good day. Yeah.
Well.
So what score are we giving him?
Yeah, what score are we giving him?
I think 8.5.
8.5.
8.5. And I'd say the reason for that, I haven't seen an awful lot of Peter Banks as a referee, but what I have seen of him, I like him. I think, he applies the 18th law, common sense, and he's not like some referees. I'm here and I want the cameras focused on me. He does the job he's there to do. And, he's human at the end of the day. He's prone to the odds, but by and large, he gets on it.
8.5. So, go on, Carl.
Oh no, I was literally just going to say that's like the Graham Scott one. From what you told us regarding the scores previously, Jimmy, that's quite a damning score you've gave Graham Scott there for his performance against Burnley. Like,
yeah, I thought Graham Scott was a bit out of depth in that, and especially, and this is the thing that even at local level with amateur football, I deal with both with the electricity league, the professional and the amateur, but even down to the amateur legislators, they know. We'll say for argument's sake, now you would know Carl Westport and Castlebar Celtic. It's like Glasgow Celtic and Rangers. That kind of picture. That
essentially, like
the legislators know who to put into a game like that. they pick a referee who's capable of, taking charge of the game, taking no nonsense, stamp his authority, the first one. Doesn't care whether he brandishes a red card in the first second or not, And there's only 2 referees at the moment capable of doing that here in this county. John Monroe's one. You know John?
I know John, yeah.
And Damien McGrath. Well, of course, Damien has experience at the UEFA and FIFA level. And they're the only 2, they're the only 2 that's capable of dealing in games like that. Yeah. And legislators should be very conscious when referees are being appointed, especially the referee observer when he's appointing referees, that he knows it's going to be a contentious game. He knows, there's history between the particular clubs. I'm going to put a referee in there, the likes of Michael Oliver, Kevin Friend, one of those that no-nonsense referees. Martin Atkinson, I think, is another good referee, was about his business. And I've never heard, people talk ill about Martin Atkinson, another referee that will do the job and just very silent. And legislators have a lot to answer for when they come to appointing referees in games where it's going to be contentious, that there's history between them, and the referee legislators should be very conscious of that and appoint a referee according to the temperament of the game.
All right. Well, Jimmy, look, appreciate your professional insight into all these games that we do be trying to question you on, and it's always very enjoyable having a chat with you. It's always good to catch up with you as well, Jimmy.
It's been a pleasure for me.
Always a pleasure, Jimmy.
Look, and I'm looking forward next season, please God, looking forward. And since you mentioned up and down to the VAR, you missed most of the game. I hope when I see you that the same thing will happen. You'll miss most of the game. You'll be up and down to the VAR.
He's got your number already, Luke.
Just before you go, Jimmy, what's the score going to be tomorrow?
Oh, look, we could win it 4 or 5. We could lose it 3 or 4. Look, I think, in fairness to Billy, he's done a marvellous job.
Sorry, Sunday, not tomorrow. Sorry, Sunday.
Yes, so I think he's going to allow, them have the freedom of the park, go out and express themselves, probably bring in a few changes in that. I expect them to win it and that, but, who cares? Who's worried whether the winners or not?
Yeah, top 10 finish this season, Jimmy,
It's unbelievable, absolutely unbelievable. And it's just great. It's, it makes you feel good. It's like, the COVID vaccination, that this is even better. We should tell everyone, instead of getting the vaccination, become a Leeds supporter.
It's better for your health.
Jimmy, I'm sure we'll probably be having at least one more chat with you before we sort of close things down for the season. But I'd just like to say personally, thanks for everything you've done for the pod since we started. It's been a pleasure talking to you and actually getting to know you now as well. So I know Carl's known you for some time, but
look, it's been a pleasure getting to know you as well. And I feel as if I know you. I know Carl Casco called me home, since he was a child and that. And fond memories of him growing up. And certainly, I'm looking forward to meeting you in person and Gilly and a few of the lads, and we'll have a good get together.
A few beers on me, Jimmy, for you there. I'll tell you.
Absolutely, you won't have to pay for a drink in Leeds, Jimmy. You'll be all right.
I haven't been told I'm in the early stages of dementia yet. So I remember that.
I'll remember it. I'm a Yorkshireman.
Jimmy, thanks a million. And look, we'll sign off and have a good evening, Jimmy, yeah?
I got this. Take care, guys.
Take it easy. Bye.
He's gone.
I love how he signs off, man. It's brilliant. It's class. Brilliant. Look, I'd just like to thank yourself for coming along with me tonight, Luke. Very enjoyable as ever. And thanks to Jimmy the ref, because he's gone. But thanks thanks for joining us, folks, and we'll get you on board for the last one against West Brom. Yeah,
and I'll probably see you Sunday, Carl. Even though you'll be inside, I'll be outside somewhere.
I'm sure I'll hear you, Luke.
Yeah. Just one thing before we do go, we will have a stats episode. We're not sure who's going to be running that Sunday, probably Sunday lunchtime-ish. We've also got stats as quiz coming up with Quizbit. If you want to find out a little bit more about that, you can on at LUFC Stats. What else we got going on? There's the walk in there. Do you want to tell them about the walk?
The walk. Oh yeah. Gilly, Bren, and Adam are doing the Yorkshire Three Peaks in August for M&D Association. So any spare change you have down the back of the couch would be greatly appreciated for the lads. I don't even know if they're really training for it, really, are they? So this might be the last chance.
Unless they're running with their arms, no.
Yeah, this might be the last chance we ever get to see these boys in the flesh, because they might die somewhere along the way. So maybe just support them, and give them a few quid and get them over the Three Peaks with a nice happy smile on their face. Oh, and by the way, Adam said if someone donates a lot of money, he'll wear a dress.
Right, so I check that out on Twitter at Mad Adam or No Better or whatever his tweet is. I don't know.
At Mad Adam.
At Mad Adam, yeah. And one more final thing, and I'm not going to do as good a job of this as Gilly because he's got a lovely perfect script. But we are at Auto No Better, official partners of 3 Retro. And you can find links and a discount code on our pinned tweets on at Auto No Better, which will entitle you to 10% off site-wide when used together. Bloody hell, I got lost for words then. But
just one more thing. Keep an eye out for a quick fire competition that we may be running. The winner will be announced after the Leeds United game on Sunday. So if you're not in, you can't win. Keep an eye on the pod tweets for the competition and do your bit and get on board and try and win yourself a nice prize when you see what it is.
Perfect. And if anybody does want to come and meet up on Sunday, we're not encouraging as a podcast. This is purely a personal. Mm-hmm. Get down and say goodbye to Berra and Hernandez if you've got sort of 5 or 10 minutes free. I think it's probably potentially going to be the last opportunity we might get. And those lucky souls that have got ticket, I'm not one of them. So I will be hanging around like a lost sheep outside the ground somewhere.
That's okay.
See you Sunday.
All right, have a good one, folks. See you later.